Took my girlfriend to meet my family and found out she bullied my sister. In high school into depression, then laughed when my sister had a panic attack, and now my family wants me to dump her, but she says she's changed. This is still very fresh, and I don't even know how to explain the mess without sounding like I'm exaggerating. But I need a place to say this because I'm stuck between feeling like I got blindsided and trying to make the right call. I, 28 million, have been dating Brooke, 26F, for around 8 months. It's been serious. We've talked about moving in together, even marriage at some point. I thought I knew her. I thought she was mature, emotionally intelligent, a little blunt sometimes, but overall kind. Until this weekend. My mom retired early, and we had a small family celebration at our house. Siblings, cousins, aunts, and close friends. I asked Brooke to come meet them since she hadn't met most of my family yet. She was excited about it, kept asking what she should wear, whether she should bring anything, wanted to make a good impression. My younger sister Beth, 21F, was going to be there too. She came home from college for the weekend. She's very quiet, always has been, doesn't really do small talk, but she's the most thoughtful person I know. I don't talk about her much with Brooke, not for any reason, it just never really came up aside from, she's my little sister, she's shy, she's into art. So we walk in. Beth's helping set the table with my mom. They turn to greet us, and Beth completely freezes. I mean, her entire face drains, like someone flipped a switch. She stares at Brooke for maybe 2 seconds, drops a spoon, and just walks away fast without saying a word. I thought maybe she was sick or overwhelmed, but then Brooke just kind of watches her go and starts laughing. She nudges me and says something like, "Wow, what was that? Is she scared of me or something?" Like it was funny, like a joke. My mom didn't laugh. She told me quietly that she'd go check on Beth, and gave Brooke a weird look. I didn't get it yet, so I just awkwardly tried to fill the silence and kept introducing Brooke to everyone. My mom didn't come back for a while. Around 20 minutes later, my mom pulled me aside, told me Beth had locked herself in the upstairs bathroom and was crying. She was shaking, hyperventilating. My mom said something like, "I know you didn't know. I'm not blaming you, but you need to understand who Brooke is to Beth." That's when I started piecing things together. I asked her to explain. So apparently, Brooke and Beth went to the same high school, different grades, but same school. And Brooke was one of the girls who made Beth's life hell. She wasn't just mean, she was the ringleader. According to my mom, Brooke called Beth names, made fun of her weight, and got a group of girls to stop talking to her. Spread rumors, made sure Beth sat alone at lunch. This went on for over a year. Beth never told me everything. I had no idea how bad it really was. All I knew back then was she stopped wanting to go to school and started therapy. I didn't know Brooke was the reason. What makes it worse is that Brooke has told me before that she was bullied in high school, that she hated that environment, that people were cliquey and cruel. She made herself sound like the outsider. But the second I mentioned Beth's name on the drive home, her whole face changed. First she was confused. Then when I said Beth's full name, she said, "Oh, that Beth?" She said she vaguely remembered her, that she might have made a few jokes back then, but everyone was mean in high school. She literally said, "I didn't realize she was still hung up on that." No apology, just total detachment. Like it was old news and Beth was being dramatic. I told her she laughed when Beth walked off. She shrugged and said she thought Beth was just acting weird, that she had no idea she was upset. Then she said I was being dramatic, that my family was turning this into a witch hunt. She kept trying to steer the conversation back to how the night could have gone better and how tense everyone was. I told her it was tense because she's the reason my sister had a breakdown. She changed tactics after that, tried to say she's not that person anymore, that she's grown, that high school was nearly a decade ago, that she went through her own issues after graduation and came out a better person. I said fine, but then why has she never brought this up? Why lie about being bullied? She got quiet and said she didn't lie, she just didn't go into the full story. And now it feels like she's trying to use the idea that she's changed as a shield from having to actually take accountability. I don't think she regrets what she did. I think she regrets that she got caught in front of my family. When we got back to my place, she tried to diffuse the whole thing by being flirty. She didn't want to talk anymore, just kept touching me, trying to distract me. I pushed her off. I wasn't in the mood for games. I told her we're not brushing this under the rug. Now she's accusing me of taking sides. Says my family is poisoning me against her, and Beth's being manipulative. She even said my mom was rude to her, which she wasn't. My mom just didn't let her play innocent. My parents want me to break up with her. My sister hasn't spoken to me since. I think she's embarrassed and probably doesn't want to make this worse. Brooke keeps texting me like nothing happened, sending selfies and "I miss you" messages, and I can't even look at her right now without thinking of how fast she laughed when she saw Beth shut down. She keeps saying she's changed, that this isn't who she is anymore, but I saw her face when Beth ran out of the room. I saw how fast she dismissed it. I feel sick, I feel stupid, and I feel like I'm starting to see a version of Brooke that makes the past 8 months look completely different. What do I even do now? I don't want to throw away a relationship I thought was serious without thinking it through, but I can't ignore what she did to my sister and how she acted when it came back up. I don't believe her apology would be real, even if she gave one, and it scares me that she thought none of this would ever come out. Update 1. So, a few days passed since the whole thing at my mom's house. Since Beth had a panic attack and Brooke just laughed like she had no clue what was going on. And after that car ride home where I tried to talk to her, and she basically said, "Yeah, I was mean in high school, but so what? Everyone was." I couldn't sleep properly for nights. Something just didn't sit right. I kept trying to replay everything I thought I knew about her, and it started feeling like I'd only seen the surface version of Brooke, the one she wanted me to see. I know some people in the last post were like, "Just dump her now." And I get it, but it's hard to explain. It's not that I wanted to stay with her, but it felt like I didn't even know who I'd been dating for 8 months. Like I got tricked, lied to, and I needed to actually know what I was dealing with before I made any kind of permanent decision. So I did something she's probably never going to forgive me for. I reached out to her parents. I met them one time before, during brunch when she invited me to meet them. Her mom was polite, her dad was quiet but seemed friendly, so I called and just said I needed to talk about Brooke. I said it wasn't anything bad about now, just that I found out something from her past and I'm trying to understand more about it before I make a huge mistake. I didn't even mention Beth's name yet. Her mom kind of hesitated. I could tell immediately that she knew something, or at least wasn't surprised by the question. She said Brooke had a rough time as a teen and was very intense and didn't always handle things well emotionally. I asked if she ever bullied anyone. Her mom paused again and said, "There were a few girls Brooke didn't get along with. I think she was just going through a lot back then." I asked to speak to her dad, and he got on. He didn't dodge like the mom. He told me point blank. Brooke used to be very cruel when she felt insecure. She was smart, and that made her think she was better than people. We tried to talk to her about it back then. It didn't always work. He told me that she grew out of it mostly, but also said, and I remember this exactly, "I'd be careful if you're digging too deep. Sometimes it's better to let sleeping dogs lie. People change." I didn't tell Brooke I called them, but I guess her mom told her because 2 nights later she showed up at my place pissed, just walked in and started demanding why I'd go behind her back and involve her family in something from a million years ago. I tried to explain calmly that I needed to understand why she didn't tell me this about Beth and how she thought she could just show up to my family's house like it was nothing. She said she forgot who Beth was at first. Then she said she didn't think it was a big deal, that everyone was shitty in high school, and how was I supposed to know she'd have a panic attack over something that old? That part really got to me. Like, yeah, maybe people do dumb stuff as teens, but you can't decide how long someone's allowed to feel something. Beth literally couldn't breathe that day. Brooke saw her panic and just laughed, and now she was acting like I was punishing her for being a teenager. We ended up arguing bad. She said I'm letting my family poison my view of her. Said my mom always looked at her weird and probably never liked her. I told her it wasn't about my mom, this was about Beth. She said I'm treating her like a horrible human for something she doesn't even remember clearly. She kept saying, "I'm not that person anymore." Then she said something that just made my skin crawl. She said, "So what? I was a mean girl in high school? Do you want to cancel me over it now?" Like it was a joke, like she thought that'd make it go away. I told her to leave. She tried hugging me, apologizing half-heartedly, and saying she just didn't know what to do. I didn't respond. I just sat on the couch and didn't say anything until she left. The next day I texted Beth. I told her if it's okay, I wanted to understand what happened in high school. She said she didn't want to talk about it all over again, but that in therapy she once wrote a letter to Brooke that she never planned to send. I asked if I could read it. She said yes, but warned me it was old and pretty raw. The letter, it messed me up. It was basically Beth pouring out everything she'd held in for years. She said she used to dread going to school, that Brooke and her friends would make mooing noises when she walked by, would laugh behind her back during gym class, took a photo of her and posted it anonymously online with some cruel caption. She didn't say what it was. Beth wrote that she stopped eating lunch at school because she didn't want to be seen, that her identity at school became Brooke's punching bag. She wrote that it took her years to stop flinching when girls laughed around her, that she never told me because she was embarrassed. I might have seen her the same way back then. I didn't know what to say. It wasn't just teasing. It wasn't normal high school drama. It was humiliation. For years. And Brooke remembered enough to laugh when she saw Beth panic in front of her. Update 2. It's been a few days since everything went down, and I honestly thought maybe she would just disappear from my life quietly. Like, okay, we fought. I said it was over. I made myself clear. I thought she got it. Nope. 2 days after we broke up, she showed up at my mom's house. With flowers. Looking like she just got off work. Full makeup on. Fake calm face like this was normal. She said she wanted to apologize in person. My mom didn't even open the door fully, just opened it halfway and told her to leave. Brooke stood there for a while, then apparently said, "You people are unbelievable," and walked back to her car. I didn't know about this until Beth told me. My mom didn't even bring it up. I guess she didn't want to make things worse, or she was trying not to stress me out. But Beth texted me that night and said, "Your ex came here. It made mom super uncomfortable. I don't feel safe." That pissed me off all over again. I called Brooke. Didn't even wait. I just said, "What the hell were you doing at my mom's?" And her response was literally, "Trying to fix what you're too much of a coward to deal with." I just sat there. I had no words for a second. She started going off, saying I chose drama, that I let a panic attack dictate the truth, and that I was letting my family brainwash me. I told her again this isn't about one panic attack. It's about what she did to Beth for years, and how she still can't give a real apology. She didn't care. She just kept talking about how it's unfair that people act like she's a monster for things that happened in high school. I asked her, "Have you even admitted to yourself what you did to Beth?" She said, "Yeah, I was a bitch sometimes. So were you. So is your sister. Everyone was." Then she laughed. Like, actually laughed. That's when I told her to lose my number. But again, she didn't stop. She started texting me the next day, like nothing happened, said she wanted to meet, talk like adults, get closure. I told her no. She kept pushing, and then I started getting texts from a few of our mutual friends, mostly people I knew through her, and it was clear she had started spinning her version of everything. One girl, I'll call her Maddie, texted me and said she heard things were messy, but that Brooke told her my mom hated her from the beginning, and that Beth was mentally unstable and used to get jealous of girls I dated. What? That's when I realized she was starting damage control. Maddie told me Brooke was saying things like, "His mom controls his whole life. He's obsessed with looking like the good guy." Beth is still holding on to high school crap because she wants sympathy. And worst of all, she said I was emotionally manipulative, that I made Brooke think everything was okay and then turned on her out of nowhere. That one made my blood boil. I didn't flip out, but I told Maddie, "If you believe that, you can stop texting me." She said she didn't, but she thought I should know. So yeah, apparently I'm a mama's boy now, and my sister is a jealous, unstable freak who sabotaged her brother's relationship because, what? She wants attention? Make it make sense. Honestly, I'm not surprised Brooke's trying to protect her ego, but I didn't expect her to go this far. And the worst part is, I think she genuinely believes she's the victim now. Like she thinks she tried, and we just weren't willing to give her the chance to grow. She keeps using that word, growth. But there's no growth without actual accountability. All she's done is blame everyone else. I told Beth everything, about what Brooke said, about the voice messages. I asked her if she was okay with me posting this update, and she said, yeah, she actually wanted me to. She's tired of hiding. She said she doesn't want me to fight her battles, but she's glad I believe her. I told her I always did. There's one more thing I need to mention here. After everything happened, I started thinking about Brooke's past, stuff she said over the months, stories she told about old friends, old relationships. There were a few things that stood out, like how she always had crazy exes, how everyone from her old school hated her because she was confident, and how a girl at her last job once spread lies and tried to get her fired for bullying. Back then, I just brushed it off, assumed maybe people were jealous or exaggerating. Now, I don't know. I reached out to one of her old friends' girls she mentioned a lot. They used to be close in college. I only follow her on Instagram, barely know her, but I messaged her and just said, "Hey, I dated Brooke. Some stuff went down, and I just wanted to ask if you had a good experience with her. I'm not trying to gossip. I'm just trying to understand." And she replied, right away, said they hadn't spoken in years, that Brooke basically ghosted her after she started dating a guy Brooke liked. Said Brooke always had this need to be the center of everything, that if people didn't fall in line, she iced them out or started drama until they gave up. That hit hard, because that's exactly what's happening now. Brooke can't handle not being the main character, and now that she's not, she's trying to burn everything down around her and pretend she's the one getting attacked. I've blocked her number, blocked her on everything. I'm done explaining myself to people who want to believe her version, and honestly, the silence since then has been the best thing I've felt in weeks. I'm still angry, still disgusted, still processing, but I don't regret leaving her. The only thing I regret is bringing her home in the first place. I wish I'd seen it sooner, but I'm not letting her rewrite this story to make herself the victim. Not this time. I'll update again if anything happens, but for now, I'm done letting her take up space in my life. Update 3. Last time I posted, I had broken up with Brooke after all the drama with my family, her non-apology, and her basically talking behind my back to mutual friends. I was trying to be done with the whole thing. Just wanted to move on and let it die, but apparently, she wasn't finished. My sister Beth called me around midnight a few nights ago. I almost didn't answer because I thought she might be calling by accident. She never calls me that late. But I picked up and she was full on crying, not just sniffling, like full body shaking kind of crying. It took her like a minute to get a sentence out. I thought something happened at her dorm, like someone tried to break in or something. Then she told me someone left her a note, slipped it right under her door, no name on it, just folded in half like something someone would pass in middle school. I asked her what it said. She read it to me and her voice kept cracking, so she had to stop a few times. It wasn't threatening in a direct way, but it was creepy. It said things like, "You ruined something that had nothing to do with you, but I guess that's who you are, always playing victim so people feel bad for you." And then stuff like, "You really think you're perfect? Think again. You're not as innocent as you act." At the bottom it said, "You'll never know what could have been, but thanks for nothing." No signature, no name, but I knew who it was before I even asked. Beth didn't want to say it either, but we both knew. It was Brooke. Beth had already thrown it out before we talked. She said she didn't want it in her room. I asked if she was 100% sure it was Brooke, and she said the writing looked exactly like the little note Brooke left me on my fridge one time. I still had that note stuck on my microwave actually. It was one of those cutesy, hope your day goes fast, sticky notes she used to leave before work. I took a picture of it and compared the handwriting. It was the same. The loops in the Y, the weird way she writes lowercase r, everything. No way this was a coincidence. That was it for me. I didn't want to text her. I didn't want to argue. I got in my car the next morning and drove to her apartment. I didn't even know what I was going to say. I just knew I couldn't let that shit slide. When she opened the door, she looked surprised to see me, like I wasn't supposed to exist in her world anymore now that she moved on to trash-talking me. She had her makeup half done and music playing. I asked her if she left a note at my sister's dorm. She said, "What are you talking about?" and tried to brush it off. I told her not to play dumb, that I knew what she did. I had proof. She paused for a second and then gave me this half shrug like she'd just been caught borrowing someone's umbrella or something. She said something like, "I just wanted her to hear from me. You've completely shut me out. Your family acts like I murdered someone, and no one is giving me a chance to speak for myself. I just wanted her to understand I'm not a villain." I asked her if calling someone not as innocent as they pretend to be was her version of an apology. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're twisting everything." That was just me being honest. That was when I got loud. I told her to stay away from my sister. I didn't care how sorry she thought she was, or how unfair she thought everyone was being. You don't get to traumatize someone in high school, then act confused when they're still dealing with it, and then go out of your way to make sure they never heal from it. I told her if she went near Beth again physically, or through her passive-aggressive bullshit, I'd go straight to the police, no hesitation. She started saying I was escalating things unnecessarily, and trying to make her the bad guy in my family drama. That's when I left. I didn't say anything else, just walked out. But I was fuming the whole way home. The worst part was thinking about Beth alone in her dorm room, trying to move on, and having her high school bully literally sneak back in through a note under the door like this was some revenge movie. Who does that? After I calmed down, I remembered something Brooke told me months ago, just offhandedly. She said she had a falling out with a girl from her college friend group because people can't handle honest feedback. I never thought about it at the time. Now it just sounded like her typical way of spinning things when she gets called out. I found that girl on Instagram. We'd met once before at a party, so I sent her a message, told her who I was, said I needed to ask something about Brooke, and she could ignore me if she wanted. She didn't ignore me. She said it didn't surprise her at all that Brooke was still doing stuff like this. She said Brooke has always had a way of manipulating social situations, so she looks like the one who's wronged, even when she's the one starting shit. She told me Brooke used to try to turn people against others in their group, especially if they didn't agree with her. The exact words she used were, she likes to dominate. Not lead, dominate. She wants everyone on her side even if she has to lie to get them there. That kinda nailed it. That's exactly what's been happening this whole time. I haven't told my parents yet about the note. Beth said she's okay with them knowing, but she doesn't want it to become a big thing again. She just wants to go back to normal, and honestly, I don't blame her. But I've started writing everything down: the note, the timeline, screenshots of the voice messages she sent to my friends. I don't know if I'll ever use it, but I don't trust Brooke not to try something again, especially now that she's exposed. I'm not scared of her, but I'm tired. I didn't expect this to get so dark. I thought it was just going to be a bad breakup. Turns out, the person I thought I was in love with might have been someone completely different from who she pretended to be. And honestly, I think she needs people to see her as a victim. Because if she's not, she has to face what she's actually done, and I don't think she's ready for that. Anyway, just needed to get this out. For anyone wondering, Beth's safe. She's shaken, but she's okay. She's been talking to her therapist about it. I'm keeping a closer eye on things now too. I don't care how much Brooke says she's changed. If this is her changed self, I can't imagine what she used to be like. Final update. It's been a while since I posted. I thought I was done with this whole thing. After the last update, I was so emotionally drained. I just didn't want to think about her anymore. I thought if I just kept moving, stayed away, didn't respond to anything, it would all die off. I tried to go full no contact, focus on helping Beth, and pretend Brooke didn't exist anymore. But of course, people like her don't disappear. They linger, and they push things until you're forced to act. Beth's been back at school and trying to return to normal, whatever normal looks like after something like this. She's doing better, honestly. Her therapist has been great. She even went to a small open mic event last month and performed a poem she wrote about high school and healing. I went, sat at the back, and cried like a baby when no one was looking. She's tough, stronger than me, honestly. Then this week, something new happened. Something that made me realize walking away wasn't going to cut it. Beth got pulled aside by one of her professors, someone I know a little bit because I work nearby and used to help out with a mentorship program on campus. He told her that an anonymous complaint had been submitted against her. Not just vague stuff, specific accusations. It claimed she was emotionally unstable, that she threatened self-harm to manipulate others, and that she was using trauma for personal gain. It read like a hit piece. The school is required to take these things seriously, but they also know bullshit when they see it. The professor told her they weren't pursuing it, but they did have to notify the family contact because it involved psychological allegations. That contact was me. Beth called me immediately. She was panicking again, not just scared, angry, because she knew who it was from the moment she read it. I didn't even need to ask. The tone, the language, the cruelty disguised as concern. It was Brooke. She didn't sign her name, obviously. No one's that stupid. But at this point, the pattern is obvious. This is who she is. This is what she does when she loses control. She flips the narrative, starts planting poison behind the scenes, and plays innocent when confronted, and I was done letting her spin her version of reality without consequences. So I made a choice. I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. Brooke works in PR. She loves to talk about her brand. She once told me she curates her life like a resume, only show what helps you move up. Her whole personality is polished, professional, calculated. When we were together, I didn't think twice about it. I thought it was just confidence. Now I realize it's control. I knew she was close with her manager, used to call her a mentor, someone who believed in her when no one else did. She'd brag about how much trust her manager put in her, how she was probably on track to be promoted before the end of the year. I didn't send anything dramatic. No threats, no big confrontation. I just wrote a simple, factual message. I attached screenshots, the voice notes she sent to my friends, the photo of the handwritten note she slipped under Beth's door, the forwarded text from the professor. I included the timeline. I didn't accuse her of anything directly. I just said, I thought you might want to know about some patterns that have been emerging. This has been incredibly difficult for my family, especially my sister, and I've tried to keep this private, but it's reached a point where silence feels like complicity. That was it. A week later, I got a text from one of the friends we used to hang out with, the one who originally sent me Brooke's voice notes. They said Brooke had been asked to take a personal leave from work, and then she was fired. When I told Beth, she just sat there quietly for a while, then started crying. It wasn't even joy or relief exactly. It was more like exhaustion finally catching up to her, like her whole body had been clenched for months and finally let go. She said, I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted her to stop. Same. There's this thing I keep thinking about. When we first started dating, Brooke said something like, I hate when people define you by your worst moment. It's lazy. And at the time, I agreed. I still kind of do. But now I realize that only works when people own their worst moment, when they try to make it right, not when they lie about it, then try to punish anyone who remembers it too clearly. Brooke never owned anything. She just wanted to rewrite it, and I wasn't going to let her anymore. I've blocked her on everything. I've moved. I've told everyone who might get pulled into her orbit what happened, with receipts, not to smear her, but because people deserve to know who they're dealing with. I'm not going to chase her down or keep tabs.